Hi, I'm Doug Ross, editorial page editor at The Times, here with Robert Blaskowitz, assistant managing editor, John Ramos, candidate for Lake County Sheriff for the Republican nomination, and his fellow candidate, Dan Bursac, also candidate for the Republican nomination for Lake County Sheriff. Well, let's talk about the major responsibilities for this office, one of which is, of course, running the county jail. Why don't you talk, John, first, and then Dan, about how you would, what changes you would make or what your impressions of the jail are?
Well, I do know that they had some problems in the past, and that the feds were brought in, and that there were some lawsuits and some compliance issues. And so I don't really know exactly what those problems are. And so not until I get in there will I be able to see how I can possibly rectify those situations and make it a little bit more smoother, and so that the lawsuits don't keep coming.
Okay, Dan?
Basically, the problem with the jail was before it deteriorated in the conditions that the inmates were housed in. That effect, what I would do is I would make sure that the place is clean from top to bottom. That's the given. I also I would look over the manpowering structure, how we have people deployed in there on the correctional aspect of it. I'm a firm believer that periodic checks of the jail, I would do, surprise checks. I would walk through basically daily. I myself didn't work in the jail, and if elected, I would actually assign myself to the jail to work, both nights, days, weekends, whatever it takes to learn the aspects of the jail.
Okay. Let's talk about your qualifications for the office. Dan?
I've been with the Sheriff's Department now for 24 years. I just started my 25th year, March 5th of this year, and I've worked in numerous areas of the jail, of the department. I started out in patrol, of course. From there, I was promoted and brought into the crime lab. I worked there for 5 years. After that, I went back to patrol for a short period of time. I was in transportation, and I've worked in all three of the civil divisions. Of course, now I'm stationed and working out of the East Chicago Civil Office.
Okay. John?
I'm currently with the East Chicago Police Department. I've been with East Chicago approximately 25 years. Before I was on East Chicago, I was on Cedar Lake Police Department as one of their reserve officers for approximately 2 years. On East Chicago, I'm one of the crime scene investigators and also their training coordinator. I've also worked in the jail for just 1 year. I am the department's primary instructor for handgun, shotgun, rifle, machine gun, building searches, active shooter. My basic duties right now, well, I just found out today, it just came in today, that they're actually going to be taking me from crime scene and actually leaving me in the training coordinator position full time. So, because I was bouncing back and forth between them both, and I was actually getting really, really bad and really, really hectic. So now I'm just going to be basically their training coordinator.
Okay.
What do you see as the major crime issues for Lake County, and what strategy would you use to attack those particular issues?
I see the gang problem that we're having up in the northern section of the county, and it's also spilling over because you're seeing graffiti showing up more and more down in South County. I would hit that vigorously, doing more sweeps, that type of object of wolf packing, what they used to call wolf packing when I was in patrol days. You'd target an area that's being really bad. You keep doing that, but you also have to let the people know that you are doing this. Okay, so it has to be an ongoing process. After the sweep, you wouldn't tip your hand beforehand, but after the sweep, you let the people know. You let invite the press along, have the media there also, and go from there.
Well, there's definitely gang and drug problems throughout the region. They tend to be mainly focused in the north. But besides that, you also have to remember that South County is also part of your jurisdiction, so you also have to take care of that. I do know that some of the places in South County have been neglected, and so we're going to actually, I would increase patrols in South County so that those guys get the kind of protection that they actually need and deserve. Aggressive patrol works. As he said, wolf packs, those are definitely really, really well. It's where you basically saturate an area, and I wouldn't know until I actually got in there exactly where the high crime areas are in South County, but you'll actually have to saturate those areas, and then you can usually get stuff done pretty quickly by doing that.
What do you think the Sheriff's Department should do in terms of, I mean, obviously you're the primary agency for the unincorporated areas, but then the department's been backing up in the other municipal police departments. What do you see your role as?
Well, I see your role as you're responsible for the entire county, so you have to basically take care of the entire county. Like a perfect example is like places like Winfield. I don't believe they even have a police department. I know that they're in the process of getting one, but I don't think they have one. So those people rely heavily on the county or the state police to actually respond to those places. Whereas like up north, you figure Hammond, Gary, and East Chicago, they do have a lot of police officers up here. So you can back off a little bit. You should assist them, don't get me wrong. You do need to assist them. But you're going to have to basically go down to South County and help those guys out, because when you have a town that has nobody, they rely on the county for that protection. So I think that's going to be that's one of the primary things you need to do.
Okay.
Well, actually, Winfield, we have a contract with Winfield to provide them with their police protection. We had a problem there when the Dominguez administration was leaving, that he decided to pull everybody out. And then I know myself and Sheriff Bunsich talked with Winfield, and we told them that we would definitely sit down and iron out a contract to provide them with services until they are able to have their own police force.
Well, Winfield's talking about a town marshal system. How do what do you think of that option for the town?
Well, that's a good option. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they should have some law enforcement there, and then have us for assistance or backup, because you got to remember that you can't be everywhere at once. You really can't. And so by them getting a town marshal or even a small police force, that would actually help them out tremendously. And actually, it probably should be done. Absolutely.
Okay.
What they need to do is, if they want to do that, they need to be able to have their police department of their own. The town marshal system, the state is actually starting to weed them out. You basically would only have 1 or 2 men there. You're going to still have to back them up constantly. So it would just be basically a handoff to, not being able to have their own police department,
Okay. What do you think in terms of training and equipment? What do you think the department needs?
Actually, we need to start looking into more grant money from the federal government to see if we can utilize that. We also need to beef up our training division. We have quite a few people that are qualified and trained as instructors, and we have the academy up here. I don't see why we couldn't actually turn that academy into almost like a small university, and have other agencies coming in, and we'd provide the training and host different classes being given.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what gear that the county sheriff officers use, but that would be something that I would definitely look into to make sure that they have basically the top of the line gears, top of the line MDTs, because that kind of stuff is extremely important for them to actually even be able to do their job. And then besides that, you also have to look at also the training aspect. The training aspect has to be done. Now, I know there's a minimum of 24 hours that everybody has to get, and so we would basically try to make sure that everybody gets far and beyond that. And then I guess that would, lots going to depend on when I get in there to see exactly what they have and what they need, because you're going to you're going to have to talk to the men because they're the ones that are out there. They know exactly what they need. They'll tell you what they need, and you have to listen to what they say and what they want. Now, granted, you may not be able to get it for them, but you can work on things to try to get that stuff to them because you got to get them to be able to do their job safely and efficiently.
So Lake County has something like 18, 19, I don't know how many police departments. What do you see the sheriff's role in working with them?
19. Actually, I'd like to get back to the thing we used to have detectives meetings where they would meet up with different detectives from the different agencies would all meet together like once a month and discuss different aspects of what's going on in their jurisdiction, what we should be looking out for, what we can help with, and just have an open door policy where any chief or officer can come up there and give us a tip. We look into whatever's going on and provide them with the support that they need.
Okay, John?
Yeah, the sheriff is, like I say, is responsible for the entire county, so it's important that he does assist and work with the other agencies. The sharing of information is extremely important because that way you can link crimes together, like they did with the gangs, using the RICO statute in order to be able to basically get the guys from Hammond, Gary, and East Chicago to all come together and share that information to basically put those guys behind bars. Sharing information is extremely important, and so I would like to see that happen a lot more, where the actual sheriff is involved, where his men are actually going out there and basically being the central hub of the information so that it can be disseminated evenly and correctly to the agencies that need it.
Okay. One of the things that we're looking at with the county doing the E911 consolidation is you'll have a lot more data available of crime throughout the county. Well, not just crime, but other calls as well. So I'm curious, what you want to do with that data and how you'll mine information from it.
Actually, we use the Spillman system now. So basically, anybody that's on, if they write a report in East Chicago, we can still bring it up on our computer. We can see what reports were generated. I want to increase that and make sure that that's fluid throughout the entire county with all 19 agencies.
Okay, John?
Yeah, he's absolutely correct with that. The Spillman system is actually a really good system, and actually we just got the report writing module for that. We didn't have it, and so I'm sure that if we just got it, I'm sure that there's other departments throughout the county that don't have it either. And so it's going to be important that those people do get that, so that way that information is shareable and interlinkable. The 911 center will actually be a good thing when it comes to sharing information and gathering information. And because with that information, you can get the stats, you can see where the hot spots are, you can see where the hazardous calls were, you can see where the hot points, the hot areas where basically you can then pinpoint areas for more aggressive patrol.
Okay. We haven't talked about the civil division. What do you think of the civil division, and what changes would you make, John?
Like I said, I won't really know until I actually get in there to find out exactly what is going on. But I do know that he's in charge of the sheriff's in charge of evictions, and so I don't know how efficient they are. I don't know how backlogged they are. I don't, all that stuff I won't actually be able to answer until I actually get in there and look and see exactly what is going on.
Okay.
The only changes that I would make in the civil division, that's where I'm working at now, is basically have each civil office do everything the same way. Have it all uniform. That way, if you need, because of manpower shortages in one office, you can actually transfer somebody over there for a short period of time, and they can just take off, running, and not have to worry about it. Like, okay, well, we do it one way in East Chicago Civil, we do it differently in Gary Civil, and you got to learn their little, idiosyncrasies. That needs to stop. It all needs to be a more uniform process, and so we could have better cooperation and use of time.
Okay.
Back to the jail. Healthcare is obviously an increasing expense for the county, not only for employees, but for treating inmates as well. Do you have any thoughts on providing healthcare to inmates in this environment?
Well, I've seen, Dr. Forgey is actually doing a pretty good job, and I can contest to him as being a good doctor because he's actually my personal doctor. So I know Dr. Forgy for years, and he's been in there and he's really turned that medical unit around. I would work hand in hand with him and see what happens on that aspect of it. See if we can bring down the cost.
Okay. John?
Well, like I said, I won't know until I actually get in there. But you figure healthcare is provided for them, and it's actually required. And so any way that we could look at possibly bring in more efficiency and cost-cutting measures, I'm definitely going to be looking into that. But as of right now, like I said, I won't know until I actually get in there.
Okay. What makes you better than your opponent? Awkward question since you're side by side. But Dan, why don't you take this one?
Basically, I've been there for 24 years. I've worked in a lot of the other places of the department. I know how it runs. I've seen firsthand the goings on. You know what I mean? I've worked there under 3 different administrations as nothing has ever changed. Politics, its ugly head rears itself up. And that's what I want to get away from. I'm a firm believer in more service, less politics.
Okay. John?
I've been in law enforcement for over 25 years, so I have the law enforcement part down. I'm a firm believer in the constitutions, both the state and the U.S. Constitution, and I have never ran for political office before. So that means that I'm not a career politician. And I think that's extremely important because that's what you want in there. You don't want a career politician in there. You want somebody in there that's basically a cop and going to do the job. And I think that makes me extremely qualified for that position.
Okay.
And for both of you, John, you can answer this one first. You're running as Republicans, which is a heavy lift in Lake County, obviously. But it's not out of the question that we saw Hank Adams win 4 years ago, I think. So it's not out of the question that a Republican can win in Lake County. What would you bring as a Republican to this office that's different from what the Democrats have historically brought to the office?
I would. The main thing that I'm gonna bring is that I think that as I mentioned before, I think the main problem with the sheriff's office is that they need to dust off the Constitution and the state constitution. And I think that they're getting away from that. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I think that there's a lot of people out there and they're really worried about what's going on, not only locally, but also in the federal aspect of it. And I think that you need to get away from normal everyday politics and get in there and do what the position is supposed to do and not worry about politics and don't worry about what the repercussions are if you don't assist somebody else in a political sort of manner. And I think that needs to be gotten away from, and I think that's what the Republicans can offer. They're going to basically do that. They're not going to, because like people are upset about the Affordable Care Act, they're upset about the income tax, and that is something that the Republicans, they're not going to play that game, and I think that's really important. I think that's why Republicans really do have a shot this time. They really do. And I think that we can actually change it around and we can show people that that's definitely the way that you want to go.
Dan?
I agree on the aspect of the Republicans can make a go of it. When I first ran, I ended up getting 28,000 votes. I had Mayor Dietlow come up to me at a Christmas party that I went to and congratulate me on the vote total. So far I've been getting an increase in votes all along. My last election, I had almost 44,000 votes. So the tide is changing. People are tired of the same old politics. They're tired of, the corruption that goes along with it, and the pay for play. Okay, I don't want to be just a sheriff of the Republicans or the sheriff of like they said before, the Democrats and stuff like that. And who cares about the other people? I want to be a sheriff that's going to work hard. I'm not a politician. I only do this because of the fact that I have to win this office. You have to become a politician. It's not by choice. It's by demand. I look at this as basically a long hiring process. And I just have to get my people out. I have to convince the voters that I'm in there to make a difference. And I don't care if anybody supported me or not. I want to sit down with each individual officer. If I'm fortunate enough to win during the transition period, try to get everybody and have a personal interview with each and every single officer and see where they want to do with their career in law enforcement and put people where they belong and go from there. Because I look at it this way. If you put a person where they want to be, they're going to work hard. They're going to make themselves look good and in turn make me look good as sheriff.
Along those lines, what has the politicization of the office, the fact that it's an elected office, what has that done to the challenge of running the department?
Well, what happens is, like I said, I've worked under 3 different administrations. They're more worried about running for the next election and whose toes do they step on or how's this going to look in the media than doing the job. You know what I mean? I want to turn the sheriff's department back into what it was supposed to be, a county police department. It's not a metropolitan police department, it's a county police department. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Okay, we have to abide by the Constitution of the United States. We have to abide by the Constitution of the state of Indiana. And people are getting away from that on this aspect. So I'm a constitutionalist. I read, actually, I carry a copy of the Constitution with me that's dog-eared that I got for years. And that's where I come from, okay? I want to support everybody. I want to be the sheriff to everybody. And I want to make sure that nobody's civil rights are violated. John,
your thoughts on the role of politics in the office?
Yeah, Dan actually hit it. He hit the nail on the head. He's absolutely correct. It's because when you're a politician, you go on campaign. You go out there, you're campaigning, and then people donate into your campaign funds. And you have to be really careful that you don't end up giving anybody special privileges. And I think that's one thing that's happening right now with the entire political process in Lake County, and it needs to stop. I mean, do I have any proof? Absolutely not. But people hear things and you see things, and so that stuff, it has to stop, because the county sheriff is basically he's a law enforcement officer. He's the Lake County law enforcement officer, and that's his job. And I think that's one thing that has happened, is they've basically gotten away from that, actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and start worrying about campaigning and politicking and stuff like that. You shouldn't do that. It's not what your job is.
One of the things that, remember the Good Government Initiative some years back? As I recall, one of the things it talked about was merging the detective bureaus into a single countywide detective bureau. What do you think of the idea?
Well, whenever you see, now you're coming back to basically it's a double-edged sword. And the reason it's a double-edged sword is because, yes, you will have a centralization of power where basically you'll have a sharing of information. But then also on that, you basically lose some of the control of that stuff. Like a perfect example is right now, they have Lake County handling our homicides in crime scene over in East Chicago. That it basically just started. And the problem that we're having right now with that situation is that the response time is longer, and they can't get the reports and the photographs and video as quickly as they could when it was done basically in-house. It's not that it's done correctly, okay? But the problem is that the detectives aren't able to get the information as quickly as they believe that they need it, because they're talking to witnesses, suspects, victims. They're trying to get statements and confessions, and they need that information in order to pass that, to be able to do that stuff correctly. And so if you do have that, where you have basically a centralization of power where just one group is basically doing everything, I think what's going to happen is that actually it may not be as efficient as they want it to be. So I think that it's something that they could look at. I think it's something that could be a supplement to local departments, but I don't think it should be something that where everybody just throws in one detective and then they say, that's it, we got rid of our detective bureau, we're letting these guys handle it. I think that would be a huge mistake.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, it would definitely be a mistake on that aspect. If you had a centralized unit like that, you would, like he said, you'd lose control over what was going on. What I would do is I would look at it on a case-by-case basis. If there was a big enough crime that was, if all of a sudden we had to say like a serial killer type of a situation, then you could also set up a temporary task force that just is handling a certain case. But no, I wouldn't be for having a centralized detective bureau.
Okay. Anything else, Robert?
We haven't really talked. We touched on gangs, but we haven't talked about drugs. The issue of drugs. Do you have any particular thoughts or strategies for that particular problem? Go ahead, John.
When it comes to drugs, it's important that your narcotics unit is doing a lot of undercover stuff. That's extremely important. They are your bread and butter when it comes to narcotics. They're the ones that are out there. They're the ones that are getting the CIs. They're the ones that are doing the controlled buys. And then that stuff is extremely important in order for you to build your case. So your gang unit is extremely crucial in reference to basically combating gangs. I mean, not gangs, but gangs and also drugs. And then you're going to need your tactical team to actually go and serve those warrants once you do get that information. That's going to be extremely important too, because you don't want normal patrol officers going in there serving the warrants. That's where your tactical team is going to come in and basically go in there and take care of that stuff.
Well, basically, you'd have to have good intel. So you'd get your undercover officers in there to make undercover buys and things like that. Then all of a sudden, you would also need a good, strong drug interdiction team. Somebody who can take it off the streets. You also need to have the gang unit working hand in hand with the narcotics units, so they can relay information back and forth to each other. Okay, and if you do that in a proper, organized way, you'd be able to make a difference.
Quick follow-up in this environment where we're seeing increased legalization of, say, medical marijuana and things like that, and you both talked about the Constitution and referenced that. How do you ensure that you're not trampling people's rights as you do these kind of drug enforcement efforts?
Well, the people that get medical marijuana, they have basically a doctor's note that allows them to have it. So it's not like we wouldn't know. They would actually have the proper documentation. So I don't think that would actually be a problem.
Yeah, that is actually a touchy situation, since all of a sudden you've got some states that are, right, legalizing it, but it's still a federal crime. Mm-hmm. So where do you draw the line where what do you enforce, what don't you enforce? Mm-hmm. And so you'd have to really have your men trained properly, and tell them that, look, you have to make sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted before you make an arrest.
Okay. Well, we have room for one final question, so let me throw this out there. What have we not asked that we should have asked? John?
I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I think actually you touched a lot of places, and you touched a lot of subjects that we needed to bring about. So right now, unless we wanted to talk about the Iliad Expressway going through Lowell, that's what I've been hearing about a lot, and the role that the sheriff might play in that aspect. So I'm looking into that also.
Okay. All righty. Well, that's all the time we have, I'm afraid. Thank you for watching.